Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. And after over 350 rounds of solo shuffle, I have been able to complete the Assassination Rogue 2400 challenge. And in today's video, as per request of my viewers in my stream, I'm going to be doing a gameplay run through what are the tips and tricks and secrets that I've discovered through that 350 round grind so that you can hopefully skip some of it and start getting to the action and rewards a little bit faster and start dominating on your Assassination Rogue. Now, fighting against melee attackers like a warrior or hunter, you're going to want to play dismantle. I learned that really quickly. You need disarm. You're going to need it for these warriors. You want to sprint in right away and try and get a sap on the enemy healer. So we're trying to dodge AoE here, wrapping around the corner, get a sap on the paladin, cheap shot the warrior, and get Garrote up at the same time. It's very important when you cheap shot, you Garrote at the same time. This way, you're going to be able to get your Garrote amplification dot going as soon as possible. Apply rupture. Make sure you use an ambush too before you start spending combo points. This way it's going to start building up your hero talent tree. I like using blind very early, especially against paladins. Paladins are really difficult classes. You need to try and get to their trinket, bops, and bubbles as fast as possible. We use kidney shot out of the blind onto the paladin for extra crowd control. If you're going to use cheap shot openers on the DPS, I do like using kidney shot on the healer. If you're going to open cheap shot on the healer, then use kidney shot on the DPS. And it kind of depends on the circumstance of the game as to whether or not you should kidney shot a DPS. It depends on how much pressure is out on the battlefield, but our diminishing returns have reset, so we're going to vanish, cheap shot, Garrote, ambush, rupture, tea time, shiv, and do massive damage to this evoker. We don't want to jump down there with him because he can double jump up and get back up, and I can't, so we're going to wait for him to fly up on his own. Go for another Garrote. You really want to annoy casters with Garrote as much as possible, just 3 times in a row, and it also just keeps the amplification of the damage up a little bit longer. I do like tabbing over to healers if they are standing next to me, like this paladin, especially paladins, but you can see we're still using kidney shot on the healer. This is because I see stun DR already on warrior and evoker, so we can get a little bit of extra CC on the paladin. That gets the trinket, and you're basically never going to press death mark in this type of lobby. Evoker can remove your bleeds with cauterizing, and paladin can pop it off, so you got to really find that window when the paladin's on forbearance or your target's on forbearance and the evoker's in crowd control, which can happen. We could get a polymorph here, the kidney shot on evoker, and we could send deathmark. That's kind of what I'm aiming to set up here. When enemies stack up like this, I like using Fan of Knives and Crimson Tempest and kind of just rotating between those as I build up combo points. You can use Gouge on DPS to just annoy them while they're trying to attack. So you can see here, we got crowd control into the paladin, and we can just kind of send cooldowns into the warrior. I've used my orc ratio. We get a polymorph, so I kind of want a kidney shot, and I want to utilize my deathmark. This right here, the paladin can't remove it. The evoker has to wait to be able to remove it, so we're going to squeeze in a little bit of extra damage, but you can see that they're going to almost immediately cauterize the bleeds off. We use shiv to keep the evoker at low health, try and not get faked on our kick here, and just dish out tons of damage. Once you get him into execute range, it's pretty much lights out for them, and you're going to be able to start to dominate. We still had a smoke bomb in our pocket. Smoke bomb can be really good as well for baiting trinkets. So for example, I could kidney shot smoke bomb the evoker to bait trinket so that now they can't trinket, and use cauterizing flame to remove my death mark. Finding a window and finding opportunities to use is really difficult. In a lot of cases, it may just be better to just not even press it, because if you use it incorrectly, you're going to lose a huge amount of momentum, especially if you use it when you're low energy. You're just going to lose all of your momentum basically. And it's a balance of figuring out when to use kidney shot and gouge on the healer versus when to use kidney shot and gouge on the DPS. And that's going to take some reps on measuring how much pressure your team is taking. You need awareness towards enemy cooldowns. What have they got activated? So in this matchup, has the evoker flown through the air? Has the arcane mage activated touch of the magi? It's probably a good idea to try and gouge them or stun them or interrupt them during this time. But we're going to dash in right away and try and dodge the AoE here to look for a sap, but we get popped out. We still get it luckily, but the mage dragon's breath us. And a lot of times mages will do this, especially as you get higher rating. I know a lot of mages will frost nova as soon as you sap, so you may want to avoid going next to the mage when you sap because almost all of them will pop you out with some AoE, but it's okay. We'll get double Garrotes, evokers flying through the air. Using trinket and cloak here is fine. It's touch of the magi and it's the evoker fly through, so this is going to be my greatest amount of damage reduction that I can provide to my team. So we're just going to trinket cloak of shadows against double caster, go over onto the paladin. I do like attacking paladins, especially high mobility range DPS, like an evoker and an arcane mage. Chasing them around can be difficult, so I find attacking paladin can be really good. This splits their attention. It can force their cooldowns faster, like bubbles and bops, and if you get those bubbles and bops overlapped, then you're going to be racing the finish line a lot faster. Also, paladins take a little bit of damage when they heal their allies through their mechanics, so if you keep them bled, they're going to kind of rot down a lot more than other healers. You can do this against druids as well, especially when they're playing close quarters. As far as keeping bleeds, I'm just trying to keep bleeds on 3 targets here. As you can see, I'm targeting the mage because the only target that doesn't have a rupture or Garrote, but we're sitting through a lot of sleepwalks at the moment. I fat-fingered smoke bomb here. Don't do that. But the mage ran into it and then panic attacked and then died without blocking. So it ends up working out. Sometimes you just got to take advantage of the mistakes that you make, and we end up getting massive execute damage. Bleed takes on him, and we can finish him there in a very quick fashion. As a result. But main goal is trying to keep bleeds up on as many things as you can, watching for diminishing returns. So once you have Garrote DR back and Stun DR back, that's when you're going to use your Vanish, your T, and your Shiv. Those are usually the windows where I coordinate all of those together. It can be confusing with how many damage modifiers and abilities that you have on Rogue. Best way for me was just keeping it very linear, where it's like T time, Shiv, and Vanish. Those guys go together. Try to get the ambush off to buff up our hero talent tree, and then use the combo points to be able to stack it. Sometimes I might Shiv outside that window or T time outside of that window, but if you see Vanish coming up, you do want to kind of sit on your T and sit on your Shiv until that moment, because that's where your damage actually will feel impactful. We're going to dash right in. And again, getting this sap, I should move away from this pillar because they're going to AoE Bladestorm. I'm actually lucky he didn't. But cheap shot Garrote, ambush, get the Rupture out. This is going to give us a strong opener. If they stay stacked on the pillar, we can use Fan of Knives and Crimson Tempest as well. So I would love if we play on this pillar right here. And I could have honestly opened with a T time and a Shiv. I think that I didn't, because most times I get CC'd as soon as I open. So I don't want my T and my Shiv to just immediately get feared or Dragon's Breath or something like that. Mage is going for Ice Wall. Ice Wall is really tough to deal with. We're just going to spam AoE and hope that we can one-shot them. And since they're stacked up like this, attacking the Paladin is a really good idea, especially with an Augmentation Evoker. They do a lot of AoE damage, so we're just spamming Fan of Knives and Crimson Tempest, going for DR Kidney Shots, and really forcing as much cooldowns as possible. This gets Divine Shield. We'll just swap back, make sure we're maintaining Rupture and Garrote on all of the other available targets. Vanish, T-time. We can Shiv as well at low health on one of these, whether it's the Mage or the Warrior. I might be sitting on my Shiv here for the Paladin because he doesn't have a bubble, so I really want to go for the kill on the Paladin, but I should have used the Shiv. We're finally going for the Shiv. This is going to reduce healing on the Paladin. They're still really stacked. You just love this moment as a rogue. I zoned into this lobby and I was like, oh my god, I'm going to lose. But when they start stacking like this and you can just Fan of Knives and Crimson Tempest, it's really where you feel the power of Assassination. We're basically just waiting for Stun DR right now. So we can get a Kidney Shot on Paladin, Vanish Garrote, his Trinket, and pretty much kill him at that point with his current cooldown set if he's not careful, if he doesn't bop it first. If he tries to Trinket and be greedy, he'll end up dying. He's also just kind of dying passively before we've even committed for a stun. So we're going for Cheap Shot. I went Cheap Shot Garrote, but he's choosing not to Trinket, which is super greedy. He gets the bop off. And we don't really have a purge here unless the Evoker's able to get a Fire Breath, so we'll just Garrote, keep bleeds going up on as many targets as we can. And I should have switched to Disarm. This is, again, I was forgetting to switch my talents a lot, but it's actually very critical against Warriors. They will do so much damage. But I see an opportunity, Mage out of position, Step Kidney, no Trinket, Smoke Bomb, no block. Try and take him out in that moment. This forces them to stack up again. We'll blind the Paladin since my bleeds fell off anyways. We can Shiv the Mage at low health, or we could swap to the Paladin right here as well, or gouge him. I think, honestly, gouging the Paladin there would have been the wise move to just chain crowd control in a row. But we're still getting decent pressure. We gouge the Mage to stop a little bit of damage, I guess. Gouge is just really good in general on any target because it doesn't break to your bleed damage. As long as you gouge when you're not directly attacking, it can basically just act as a pseudo stun, and the Evoker blasts damage out where we're pressuring the Paladin behind the pillar. We're able to clap out round number 3 here in this best of 6 lobby for solo shuffle, and you can see where the fun of Rogue comes in. It's all just about, are you going for single target? Where are you going to allocate your cooldowns? Do you see an opportunity with somebody out of position? Can you like immediately snap to them with a step? And syncing all these abilities up together is a really satisfying experience. Although it's a lot more difficult than just bonking your way around on a lot of other melee DPS. I think at the end of this stream, I ended up getting 5 subs from Bringibus to play Ret Paladin. I was like, feels like dirty fun. I feel like I'm cheating compared to Assassination Rogue, but the reward factor didn't feel as high either, as a trade-off in that regard. But now we got Arcane Mage, we've got Aug Evoker Warrior. I should have spec Disarm. I don't know what I'm doing. How did I even get 2400 on this class when I forget to spec Disarm into these Warriors? They're having so much more fun as a result of not taking it. But we're going to dash in right away, get a sap, Garrote, Cheap Shot, Opener. Cheap Shot first on Warriors because they might stun you or CC you. But you can see they Bladestorm right away. Using a Feint here wouldn't be a bad idea. Since I'm kind of just behind the pillar. I want to get a Garrote out of the sap also with the remaining time of that Subterfuge. And I could go for a Kidney Shot. But the Warrior's not in Stun DR because he Bladestormed the stun. So trinketing that, I should have probably trinketed that Fear, Kidney Shot the Paladin, stepped over and stun, but our Evoker flies through. I get a re-stealth behind the pillar. Sometimes it can be good to look for re-stealths, but I feel like I've been out of the game too long, and that's kind of putting my team behind. We had to Ice Block already, especially because I'm playing Orc, which I wouldn't recommend. I think Night Elf is vastly superior if you're going to play Assassination, because you're just limited on so many ways to re-stealth. We get a Step Kidney Bomb, and we Death Mark because the Evoker's not inside the bomb. He swoops in at the last second, and that forces at least Die by the Sword. You got to get behind the Warrior here if you want to attack him during Die by the Sword, but we're just going to spam Venom Knives instead. Use Crimson Tempest since 2 targets are stacked up right now, and ramp up our AoE to make it really difficult for the Paladin. Now the stun DRs are coming off here, so we're going to cheap shot and extend and use Envenom, and we can Garrote off, get double Garrotes. We can also cheap shot the Paladin and really start getting some AoE pressure. Step up on the knock, big Envenom, keep AoEing, try not to break the sheet, but ended up breaking with a Garrote. He gets knocked off on one side. Honestly, it's shuffle, but paying attention to that would be important. Like if that sheep didn't break there, it probably would have been a bubble, maybe a kill. If I didn't keep AoE in there, we'll just cheap shot the Warrior. Just anytime you vanish, you want to maximize the DRs as much as possible. Utilize as many Garrote silences as you can. And if you're doing that in that window, you're going to be really disruptive and annoying. I have a full blind here, so I want to use blind on the Paladin and try and get a kidney shot onto the Evoker if I can. Syncing up like a CC on the healer, like a blind gouge or something like that with a kidney on the target is going to provide you the most amount of momentum, and then syncing up your T or your Shiv in that window also. But you can see in this game I used my T to just continue my bleed damage and my rot pressure throughout onto multiple targets, and that's kind of like a feels it out kind of thing as to which one's going to be more effective. We get feared up here, but we got 2 targets low. Bubble's about to end. I see Upheaval, so we're going to use Feint. Upheaval's big AoE damage. Likely means the Evoker's going to be doing a lot of bursts, so this should help us sustain through that window of opportunity for our opponents. Now they're kind of baiting us and they're pulling back in a way, and I think it's a good move on their part because if they stack against me, they're going to take a lot of damage by staying in the middle of the bridge like that, and they're kind of pulling me behind the pillar, so I don't fall for the bait. If you see enemies pulling you back behind pillars, if you don't have a trinket or cloak, don't follow them because you're just asking for trouble. We can gouge up the Paladin while the Mage is taking on the Warrior, get combo points to kidney shot the Paladin. Just go for 3 combo points because he was so low. We spell steal off the bop, we get a blind. I can reapply bleeds here, hopefully get him into execute range and take another round victory. So there I saw an opportunity where the Paladin was out of position from the Warrior. Mage had the Warrior low, so I'm going to use my stuns on the Paladin, let the Mage finish the target, and you got to be able to quickly adapt in those moments to be able to take victory in those situations. You don't want to just follow like one strict path of I'm only using blind on this target, I'm only using kidney shot on this target. You need to be looking at what the game presents you and what will maximize your opportunity. Sometimes it's blinding a DPS. It might be that your ally is really in dire straits. They have no cooldowns left. The only way you survive is if you get a full blind on the Warrior in those situations. So just pay attention to trinkets. That's going to be really important. Pay attention to diminishing returns. Save your vanishes, obviously, for those diminishing returns. I would not recommend vanishing out of roots unless absolutely necessary, or it syncs up with your DRs anyways, because your vanish is really valuable. As soon as you run out of those, you'll notice your momentum falls off massively. We sprint in, we sap Paladin, try and cheap shot before Bladestorm, get Garrote, make sure to use Ambush, and then we're going to Rupture and get massive AoE if they stack up on this pillar again, which I really can't believe they're doing. So the Mage pulls away, and he's got Touch of the Magi on me, so it's a little bit scary, but we're just going to step in on the Paladin, get massive damage going once again. If they stay stacked on the pillar, you just definitely want to be attacking the healer and AoEing them. It's the best way. We just send Death Mark and it doesn't react. It gets one tapped. We're doing massive damage in the opener. We're able to take another round win. So that's the type of pressure you can get if enemy teams are stacked up and you're able to actually get pressure on the healer and you have an AoE comp. So if you have like a Death Knight, Augmentation Evoker, I mean even Warrior can Bladestorm to some extent, but you know enemies are going to be stacked up. It can be really good to just keep them stacked, keep them pinned, and kind of just blender them down as quickly as possible. So it's Assassination Rogue's a fun class because it's like a flex between this AoE blender rot class and a precision burst class where you're picking your moment. So it has 2 very cool mixed play styles. I'd say its AoE is where its power mostly comes from, but you do have opportunities for single target burst as well, which actually makes it a lot of fun to play even despite it being weak and having a lot of counters. Like typically this lobby would be one of the most difficult lobbies that I could ever get. Double Paladin Evoker. It's really hard with high mobility range DPS. We're going to move in, try and get a sap. Remember, Mage might pull me out, so staying next to the Paladin is a mistake, so we'll just step out immediately to the Evoker, cheap shot Garrote, get Rupture and Ambush up, Rupture up, and this is going to give us good bleed pressure. We can swap back to the Mage with our remaining enhanced Garrotes, and we're going to blind the Paladin, keep our rot pressure going on 2. I don't know what broke that blind on the Paladin unless he got a pre-sec on the Evoker. I didn't see it with my Gladius, but now he flies through the air and it's Touch of the Magi. We just cloak. I'm not going to mess around with double caster with every single offensive cooldown, especially when Aug Evokers is like the biggest cheese one shot and Arcane Mage is the biggest cheese one shot. I don't mess with that anymore. I trinket cloak. There's been too many times I've just died because I didn't trade immediately on cooldown activation. So just trade immediately there. We can Hammer of Justice on the Paladin, which means my advanced cheap shots not going to be super effective here. We're just going to attack the Paladin, get combos off him while nothing else is nearby. This is another thing you can make a mistake as a rogue, is that you don't just like tab to something nearby as you're moving to your target. We can Vanish Garrote the Mage, get stun locks moving towards the Mage here as well. Because he's the only one off stun DR for now. So I'm just kicking him on Arcane, building up combo points and locking him down, making sure that I can lock down whoever is possible. Didn't know he was playing Blink Stun when I kidney bombed him there, but he blinks and he displaces back into the bomb, so his bomb is still getting value even despite that. And you can see, even though the Mage was my focus, I'm still swapping on targets based on diminishing returns. So commit another Vanish to the Paladin, and that gets Bubble. So I'm just maximizing diminishing returns. Anyone that's off DR, I'm sending my Vanish on them, getting maximum bleeds, and sending my burst rotation basically on them with any given opportunity. So I see the Paladin here with no bleeds, and I don't really want to chase the Mage and the Evoker downstairs. So we're going to gouge him up first, move over to the Mage. Also, using your throw daggers or your fan for range DPS while you're on the move is important. It'll just keep consistent combo point generation, as well as maintain your wound poison on the target and snare them if they are snareable, with how OP Evokers are at times. But now I see an opportunity. Mage has no bleeds. He's coming off stun DRs pretty soon, so we'll get bleeds. But you can see I have no vanishes. So this is a bit where the game becomes pretty difficult, because your burst is going to be very limited. So I'm just attacking anything that's nearby, maintaining bleeds as much as possible, so that way I have good energy regeneration, just good rot pressure. The Evoker has Renewing Blaze, so we're going to attack the Mage a little bit more. He blinks the Stormbolt, so we can step after him. I get knocked, we could step after him again. Using your Shadow Step on a blink or a knock is generally what you want to do, and if you're chasing a class that has knockbacks and jumps and blinks, you may have to commit all of your Shadow Steps to them. If you Shadow Step to a different target, then you're basically forfeiting getting to any target, is what I've noticed with Ellie Shamans or Mages. So don't think you can just like step to the healer kidney and then step back to the Mage or the Evoker. You'll just never hit anything for the rest of the game. You gotta be really careful with how you're using your Shadow Step, or you'll just end up stranded a lot of the times. You might end up stranded even if you're using Shadow Step correctly in a lot of cases, because mobility is really limited. Here we use Gouge on the Evoker because he's spamming Eruption with his Aura Mastery up, so I don't want him free casting. Stop some of that damage. My team is also just all dying at the moment, so I'm really focused on shutting down damage. We Gouge Evoker, kick Evoker, try not to stack here, pull away to the side for a second. I'm trying to buy time for Cloak because I got it up in 1 second and I have a full blind, so we'll go full blind. I've got Vanish in 9 seconds. We Cloak on him at 1%. He lay on hands. We keep spamming Throw Knife here to keep bleeds going. We get him in execute range, and we can finally finish him to get the 6, get the 2400, and complete the challenge. Like I said, it took over 350 rounds. This is the longest 2400 challenge that I have undertaken, but it's made me realize that Rogue is a very satisfying experience once you're able to get more towards the top end. And of course, I haven't even fully mastered it either. So at full mastery, I think that it's a very satisfying experience. Would definitely recommend Rogue. I think Subtlety probably is going to be the most. I'm excited to try that challenge upcoming pretty soon here. I think I'm going to start with Ret Paladin though, at least on my stream for today. But likely moving to Subtlety Rogue very soon in the near future. Really fun. I like the flex between AoE dots and single target burst and the type of control that you have. You have to be really methodical and tactical with your play, or you will get abused. So tread lightly on this one, but it's also very satisfying once you're able to get your hands around it, basically. So I hope you guys enjoyed this breakdown. I hope these tips help you out and help you understand what your goals are to be the most effective with your Assassination Rogue in PvP. Thank you guys very much for watching as always, and I will see you in the next one.